We're going to have a hosting crash course for the World Cup. And the city of Kansas City actually reached out to our alliance saying, we need help because we are short about 500 short-term rentals for the World Cup. So this event is for anyone who is planning or thinking about wanting to host during the World Cup.
Host Planet is heading to Kansas City in Missouri. We'll be helping vacation rental hosts prepare for next year's FIFA World Cup, which has been held in the US, Canada and Mexico. Tyann Marcink Hammond is the instigator behind the World Cup hosting crash course, which will take place on the 14th and 15th of November. Find out what convinced her to organise this event, which major brands will be involved, and what hosts will learn during the conference on today's Host Planet podcast. Tyann, welcome to the Host Planet podcast. Now, I'm excited, and that's because Host Planet is heading stateside all the way to Kansas City, in fact, in Missouri. Why on earth am I going to Kansas City in November?
I mean, besides the Kansas City barbecue, hello. I mean, that's good enough to come over across the big pond to come see us. But there is another little tiny global event happening in Kansas City and Missouri, and that's the World Cup. And we're one of the host cities here in Missouri, and we are so excited to have the world coming to visit us in the United States, Canada, Mexico, and our little tiny town of Kansas City, Missouri. And with that, the Missouri Vacation Home Alliance that I represent is we're going to have a hosting crash course for the World Cup. By the way, I'm Tyann Marcink Hammond from Branson Family Retreats and Missouri House Vacation Rentals, and I started in the vacation rental industry back in 2007. So I'm going on 2 decades here. And when the World Cup was coming here, and then we throw in some things about politics and property taxes in Missouri, and fast forward to 2025 in the winter, and the city of Kansas City actually reached out to our alliance, the Kansas City Short-Term Rental Alliance, saying, we need help because we are short about 500 short-term rentals for the lodging for the World Cup. And the Kansas City Alliance said, yeah, we know what to do. We're going to reach out to the State Alliance. And we have all been working together to make this the most impactful event for hosts globally.
Fantastic. Now, I should probably explain that this event combines my last 2 careers, really, because I spent 10 years in Qatar working on the World Cup project for the local organising committee. So I know all about accommodation issues because there were plenty over in Qatar. And of course, recently I've been running Host Planet, which is very much part of the short-term rentals world. So this is very nicely combining 2 of my big passions, football, soccer to you guys in the States, and short-term rentals. So tell us about the event then, the World Cup hosting crash course. Who is this for?
So this event is for anyone who is planning or thinking about wanting to host during the World Cup. So that's approximately 3 months in the summer in North America. And when the city of Kansas City reached out to us saying that they needed more hosts, we realized, you know what, we can help with that. But the caveat is I want to lay the foundation of education so that you don't have all these people, oh yeah, we're going to make so much money. And then either A, they don't make the money they were expecting because expectations were totally out of whack, or they realize, hosting is not a trip to the beach where you sit there with your little umbrella drink and your toes in the sand type thing. There is a lot of work to do, and there is a lot of responsibility in caring for people who come to your home. And so we wanted to make sure that Kansas City specifically is going to be the best guest experience, the safest homes, and have this incredible foundation and experience for everybody who's coming to the World Cup so that we can be that shining example to our community, to the economy, and to the city as well, how important this is to partner and work together. And from that, we realized we can't just keep it to ourselves. So we've invited all of the host cities to join us in this initiative. So we've already got Atlanta and Dallas on board to follow us, as well as the country of Mexico. So it's really, really, really exciting. If I can say really as much as possible, because I know I've read that the Brits don't like it when us Americans say really, really all the time. But, that's part of my vernacular.
It's really wonderful. Thank you. Okay, real talk now for all you hosts out there. You know that moment when your guest messages you again with, hey, what's the Wi-Fi code? Or you're staring at 5 different calendars, wondering if you've accidentally double booked the cottage. Yes, we've all been there. That's why here at Host Planner, we recommend Hostfully. It's basically your rentals control center. It handles bookings across all the big platforms, syncs your calendars to ensure there are no double bookings, automates guest messages, and even creates these really slick digital guidebooks that stop all the repeat questions. Honestly, it just makes your life easier and keeps your guests happier, helping you achieve those all-important 5-star reviews. And here is a little bonus. If you're a Host Planet listener, you can get $500 off onboarding for Hostfully's property management software and 30% off digital guidebooks for life. Just hit the link in the show notes and use the codes PLANET500 for the PMS and HostPlanetGB for the guidebooks. And if you'd like a proper walkthrough, there's also a link to book a demo with Frank Bosey from Hostfully. He will show you how it all works. Less stress, more bookings, sorted with Hostfully. Okay, so it's on the 14th and 15th of November, so a 2-day event. So who can we expect to hear from? Who are the brands that are going to be there? And what specifically are people going to learn when they come for these 2 days?
So we actually have Airbnb and Booking.com headlining the event. Verbo is also a sponsor as well. It is just phenomenal for the online travel agents, the OTAs, to understand and underscore the importance of this education for people to learn from and to build that foundational hosting. And so they're coming. We're also bringing in the industry experts like yourself, James. I was so excited when I remembered in the little bit back of my mind that, wait, James has hosted before, and what is one of the biggest impacts is when you can talk to someone live in person, face to face, of someone who's walked the path before you. So we're really excited that Hostfully is sponsoring James to bring him over the pond to talk to everybody. Then we have Justin Ford with Breezeway Safety, talking about safety. We've got Nick Massey coming from Proper Insurance to talk about accidental damage protection and your liability protection. And then we have Ashley Ching with InHaven to talk about the fees and how you have to consider what is your cleaning fee? What are some other things you must charge besides your nightly rate? We're going to have Kyle Driscoll from Price Labs to come talk about revenue strategy. So not this is how you use Price Labs. It's how do you price your place? What should your strategy be? And what can you expect? We've got AirDNA coming to open the event to talk about the realistic expectations of how much could you charge, what kind of occupancy you should look at what point are people going to start booking their places. And that's one of the reasons we're doing it in November is because people are already thinking about booking for next year, and you've got to get your listing going. I am going to talk about being a good neighbor, making sure that you're respectful of your community and your neighbors and the local ordinances, as well as your guest communication, your guest experience, and making sure that you are letting people know all about the absolute best places to visit while they're in the United States and in your area, such as the best Kansas City barbecue. We're going to take James out too. And then we've also got Jen Saxton from Host GPO, who's going to talk about what is the basic 101 supplies you need at your house. Now, to me, this is very important because I have a lot of friends from the UK and Europe. And one of the things that we do in the Midwest is, we drink tea, but I'm sorry, James, we actually, I don't know if you want to hear this, but we put the mug of water in the microwave to heat it up. And I know that this...
Oh, dear.
Yes. So one of the things is Jen will be talking about if you're going to host people coming over the pond, make sure you've got a tea kettle for them because that is the proper way to make a cup of tea.
Fantastic. Yes, properly making sure that the Europeans and especially the tea drinkers from England are properly looked after. I love that. Yeah, great that you mentioned Hostfully there. So Hostfully actually are going to be sponsoring an ebook that we're going to be working on together. And this is going to be a free resource for everybody who comes along to the event, but also anybody who wants to download it generally. So what can people expect from that ebook?
So the event itself is going to be your foundation, and then the ebook that we're going to release that day will be the next steps after your foundation. So the event will give you everything you need, where you don't have to have tech if you don't want to, but there will be tech available. And then those next steps are, if you want to do even better, if you want to get a little bit of technology, if you feel like you're already getting addicted to hosting in the industry, what are those next steps that you can do better? What will give you that edge over all your other competitors? Those are the next things. So we're making sure that we're having a good foundation plus the next steps. Now, the other thing I forgot to mention, James, they're not speaking, but they're going to be there, is we're going to have data-led designs. So they are bringing the data about the interior design of what you can do to make your place stand out. In addition, we'll have Touch Day there with the event guide and being able to provide guidebooks for you to provide to your guests as well. So it's, again, really exciting for all of this to come together and all the support of the industry, because this is a level of education that has been missing for quite a while. And I absolutely love seeing everybody coming together and supporting this and supporting MOVA, the Missouri Vacation Home Alliance, through this. And okay, one more that I forgot to mention is we are partnering with the city of Kansas City. And I have just gotten confirmation that we're going to have the folks from the city themselves there to speak on the regulations for locally, as well as the lodging tax remittance, so that we have the people who are receiving your tax reports and the money, they're going over exactly how to do it so that there is no confusion on what happens, and making sure that we're partnering together so that everybody can be responsible.
Fantastic. Yeah. So that ebook, working title, Six Steps for 26. So look out for that. It will be across our social media and on our websites. An interesting point there you make about major events, because when we go to conferences, we learn a lot about the data and the revenue in relation to major events. But there aren't any events or conferences like this which specifically talk about how you can be a host during a World Cup or an Olympic Games or for a major rock tour or anything like that. How important is it, do you think, to start getting really specific when we have major events like the World Cup?
So I think it's so important that, one, I'm dedicating volunteering my time to do this, but it creates that foundation of people to understand their responsibility to their own house, to respecting their neighbors, to respecting their community, and not just trying something out and throwing it up there and realizing they're going to get themselves in a lot of trouble because they don't think through things that could happen. And so one of the things we'll be going over is, what are the policy decisions you need to make ahead of time? Are you going to accept pets for someone who might be driving in or flying in with their animal? Are you going to do what time for check-in and check-out? How does that affect, or how is that affected by flight schedules and where people are coming from? Are you going to collaborate with others so that they can go from your city to a vacation area and then come back? What are the logistics in your target market that comes together? And when you dig deep into what people are coming for and who it is that is coming, you can better serve them. And then you can realize, hey, this is something I love to do. Maybe I want to invest in a vacation home in another location, or maybe it's the way you can serve your community. Because, for instance, one of my brands, it's historical homes in Missouri wine country. And a lot of our guests are coming for family, whether it's family reunions, weddings, and a lot of funerals even. So it's a very different type of guest, and being able to serve that type of guest. So in essence, the same thing. When someone's coming for a very specific event, there are things you need to be aware of to make sure that you're serving that specific guest and making sure that they walk away with a feeling of care and being welcomed, and that, hey, they want to return to your area again, maybe next time, to explore more.
Yeah, and talking of knowing your guest, I think the draw for the World Cup is going to take place in early December. I think the 5th of December, don't quote me on that. But at that point, you'll start to know which countries are going to be playing in Kansas City. And this, of course, helps hosts and property managers because they'll know which nations are coming. You can start preparing. You can even maybe put some flags or merchandise of those countries in your photos, and that might entice them to start actually booking. And then, of course, you can prepare things like different languages. You might need videos in Spanish if you've got fans from Spain or Mexico or something coming along. So it leads me on really, like, in terms of the excitement. How much is the excitement building in Kansas City? Are people thinking much about the World Cup? I mean, obviously you are, but I mean generally.
Oh, they are. And there's a call out for volunteers to actually help with the event. There's a full on committee just for the event. I mean, so much preparation is going on, so many partnerships and collaborations. It's very quite exciting that all of this is coming together in this manner. And when you mentioned, making videos on how things work, it reminds me of the first time I went to London, and I got into my hotel room, and James, I could not figure out how to turn the light on. I was tired. I was so completely exhausted after the flight over there, and I was in tears, literally in tears, because I could not figure out how to turn the light on in the hotel room. And instead of calling the front desk, I called my friend Andy McNulty, who brought me over there for an event. And I said, Andy, I know this is a simple question, but I cannot turn the light on. And he's like, what? What do you mean? You put your card in the slot, right? I'm like, what do you mean I put the card in my slot? So, you guys are used to, oh, you put the card in the slot by the door to make sure that the electric says, oh, yeah, there's someone here, and we can turn the electricity on for the room. Or the fact that you have little on off switches on every single outlet, and that if I plug my phone into charge and that outlet isn't turned on, my phone's not going to charge. There are little idiosyncrasies between the different cultures that we will need to be reminded here in Kansas City and Missouri and the United States. Okay, what is it that is normal for us that is not normal for someone else? And then create those videos, as you said, put it into your Touch Day guidebook, and make sure they're also translated for their language. There's so many little things that you have to navigate when you host someone to make sure that they have a great time.
Definitely, yeah, and it even like extends to just the cultures and different tips and things to expect. I mean, even if you're coming like from Europe or the UK, there's a lot of things that are different if it's your first time in the States. Leaving tips, for example, it's kind of tips everywhere in the States is expected, which is not necessarily something that you're used to. And I'm looking forward as well, actually, to comparing the World Cup in Qatar, which is in a very, very small area, compared to the World Cup in 2026, which is obviously in 3 countries. So you've got the US, you've got Canada, you've got Mexico. I think the 16 venues, 16 stadiums in 2026. We had 8, and the longest distance between stadiums in Qatar was about 55 kilometers. And the longest distance between stadiums in this World Cup in 2026 is going to be thousands of kilometers. So there's going to be some really interesting comparisons, I think. And another thing as well is just the scale of the World Cup. I mean, obviously, soccer isn't the most popular sport in the US. We know that. But I think the average viewership for a match in the World Cup is about the same as the average viewership globally for the Super Bowl. So it's like having a lot of Super Bowls back to back over a month-long period. So yeah, it's going to be really exciting. Fantastic. So 14th and 15th of November, where can people go to find out more information, and how much is a ticket?
Yeah, so head to hostingcrashcourse.com. Super simple, hostingcrashcourse.com. And the ticket for a Alliance member in Missouri is only $79 for the early bird rate. You can also sign up for our video course. We're going to record all of this because it is such good foundational education that we want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to access it, not just at the event, but leading up to and throughout the World Cup event, and then beyond that as well. So there's going to be a video course that you can sign up for if you're not going to come to Kansas City. And you don't have to be someone who lives in Kansas City or the area to come to the event. So if you are just interested in hosting, or you think, oh, yeah, I'm going to host in our area, but then you're not having an event, come over to Kansas City. We've got an international airport, easy fly. If you are in the Midwest, you know that anything under 15-hour drive is absolutely doable. So you can do that. And come stay with any of our Kansas City Alliance members or the hotels in the area. We're really excited that the event venue is a recently renovated historical auditorium that the city of Kansas City runs. So it's been sponsored by a city councilwoman to take care of it for us. So even in a city venue as well, I'm just so thrilled. It's absolutely fantastic. And then, James, one of the things that also really excites me is that this event will now give us the opportunity to have a story of data to tell when an area has education versus an area that doesn't have education. What happens with new hosts? Is there a difference in the reviews they get? Is there a difference in what the guests say in the reviews, with the cleanliness, with the experience? All of that story, we're going to now have the data for by next year. And what's really fun is AirDNA is going to give us that data, and they're going to sponsor for us the World Cup Hosting Challenge. So I'm going to come up with some various awards that the different areas can go after for this challenge. So it's the World Cup Hosting Challenge between the different host cities, and we'll see who can do the best with the increase in reviews and the way the guests feel, as well as the increase in new hosts and new properties. And did they meet the demand? Did they fill up with occupancy? What kind of rates are they getting? All of that data story is going to be in front of us.
Superb. That is fantastic. Yeah, because so often people start with a property, like me really years ago, don't really know what they're doing. There aren't many of these crash courses knocking around where you can pay $79 and come along for a couple of days and learn about it. So yeah, really, it'll be great to see the impact of a course like this on people who are new hosts and are doing it for the first time, and getting involved during such a massive event like the World Cup as well. Tyann, fantastic. I'm really looking forward to November and being a part of this. Everybody should look out for all the comms that we'll be doing across our channels, including the links to the event and, of course, the ebook that we're doing with Hostfully. Thanks again to Hostfully for getting involved with this. And yeah, I'll see you for that barbecue in a couple of months.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, James. Safe travels.
Great to chat to Tyann Marcink Hammond there about the World Cup hosting crash course. Hope to see you in Missouri. All right, that's it for today's show. Remember, this podcast is brought to you in collaboration with Hostfully, which is trusted by short-term rental professionals across the globe. As a House Planet listener, you get 2 exclusive offers: $500 off onboarding for Hostfully's property management software. Just use the code PLANET500, and 30% off digital guidebooks for life. Use the code HousePlanetGB. To grab these deals, click the link in the show notes or head to housefully.com. For more free education, tips and trends from the STR industry, visit houseplanet.club, where you can sign up for our newsletter, listen to our podcasts, and download a suite of ebooks for hosts and property managers. That's it for today's episode. Until next time, happy hosting.